You probably know Jeff Bezos, Oprah Winfrey, and Sam Walton, right? But you don't know the story behind starting their business. In this video, I will share the stories of how they started their business.
Jeff Bezos started Amazon at age 30. His reason? I came across these startling statistics that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided to find a business that made sense in the context of that growth.
Hey, who are you?
I'm Jeff Bezos.
And what is your claim to fame?
I'm the founder of Amazon.com.
Where did you get an idea for Amazon.com?
Well, 3 years ago, I was in New York City working for a quantitative hedge fund when I came across the startling statistic that web usage was growing at 2,300% a year. So I decided I would try and find a business plan that made sense in the context of that growth. And I picked books as the first best product to sell online, after making a list of like 20 different products that you might be able to sell. And books were great as the first best, because books are incredibly unusual in one respect, and that is that there are more items in the book category than there are items in any other category by far. Music is number 2. There are about 200,000 active music CDs at any given time. But in the book space, there are more than 3 million different books worldwide active and in print at any given time across all languages. More than 1.5 million in English alone. So when you have that many items, you can literally build a store online that couldn't exist any other way. And that's important right now because the web is still an infant technology. Basically right now, if you can do things using a more traditional method, you probably should do them using the more traditional method.
What kind of inventory do you keep?
We inventory the best-selling books. At any given time, we're inventorying in our own warehouse only a couple of thousand titles. And then we do almost in-time inventory for another 400,000 titles or so. We get those from a network of we order electronically from a network of wholesalers and distributors. We order those today. They're on our loading dock the next morning. Then for another 1.1 million titles, we get those directly from 20,000 different publishers, and those can take a couple of weeks to get.
Oprah started her TV production company Harpo when she was 32. Part of her motivation? Her co-anchor was being paid more than her. I said I want to take the risk of owning my own show so that I will be the one to say who gets what paycheck.
It was 1980. I was getting paid $22,000, and the guy who I was co-anchoring with was getting paid $50,000. So I went into my boss, and I said, he's getting paid a lot more money than I'm getting paid. And you know what my boss said? Why should you make that much money? In 1980, he said, why should you make that much money? He said, he has kids. Do you have kids? And I said, no.
I cook for 5 and you cook for 1 or 2.
He said he has to put his kids through college. He has a house payment. Do you have a house? And I said, no. And he said, so tell me why you need the same amount of money. And I said, well, because we're doing the same job. He says, I don't think so. And so I thought, I'll show you.
Thank you. I'm Oprah Winfrey, and welcome to the very first National Oprah Winfrey Show!
We became a syndicated show in 1986. So I went into the bosses, and I said, my team, they need to make more money. And the boss at the time said, why? They're all girls. That moment in the office, that was a deciding factor for me. I came back and said, look, I want to own my own show, and I want to take the risk of owning my own show so that I will be the one to say who gets what paycheck.
Vera Wang started her business at 40. She called her fashion career a happy accident after initially wanting to be an Olympic skater. She spent 2 decades in the industry before launching her own brand. Eric Yuan started Zoom at 41. He had the idea in college after long tiring trips to see his girlfriend. He got to the US after 8 visa application denials and helped Cisco grow WebEx. But customers wanted more. So he started his own company.
Congratulations. I mean, what went through your head when you heard about this honor? This award is not about me. It's about our employees' achievement, because it truly reflects the culture we as a team has built.
So tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, you were born and raised in China. As I mentioned, you applied for a visa to the U.S. 8 times.
Yeah,
and you still applied again.
I planned for 20 or 30 times. So actually, at that time, the good news is actually before I got it declined for 10th time, I got the visa. So I was born in China and came here in 1997 as a new immigrant and joined WebEx as one of the first several founding engineers and worked on WebEx for many, many years. And then I left Cisco to start Zoom.
Now, when you were at Cisco, you weren't really happy with the product that they were creating, and Cisco is the giant in this industry.
Yep.
So didn't you go to your bosses and say this isn't working?
I did actually. You know what? And I was working very hard to make WebEx better. Guess what? 13 years later, I did not see a single happy WebEx customer. I feel like I have an obligation to fix that problem. But Cisco is a great company, but it was unwilling to change its collaboration strategy back then. I had no choice but to leave to fix the problem. Essentially, I guess, I created that problem. So.
Lots of controversial discussions happening right now on immigration reform, the separation of families at the border. What has been your reaction to all of this as someone who has been through this process?
I think ultimately, when it comes to making a tough decision, you really look at it in the long run. Make sure all the decisions we made sustainable. Separate the kids with family, I think absolutely wrong. You cannot punish those kids. You look at the kids that are crying, I think I have 3 kids. I feel very sad, very, very sad. Yeah.
So, Silicon Valley has a long-running diversity problem, as we've been discussing. You are in a unique position to make a difference. What are you doing at your company to make Silicon Valley a more inclusive place?
So Silicon Valley is an innovation center for the world, right? I think one of the key reasons why Silicon Valley is so successful because of embrace of diversity. If you have people coming from all over the world gather together, discuss something, I think that's where the innovation is coming from.
And yet women are underrepresented, minorities are underrepresented.
Yes,
mostly.
Absolutely right. Yeah, that's why we need to focus on that problem. Like from a Zoom perspective, we always look at female engineers, female executives. Look at our executive team. 30% are female executives.
So Mark Zuckerberg, Lloyd Blankfein, Mark Benioff, those are the CEOs who have been on this list several years in a row. What are you going to do to stay on it next year?
First of all, I admire them. I really like Mark Benioff, Mark Zuckerberg. I think, from our perspective, especially for me as an immigrant, I got to work harder and harder. Make sure keep our employees happy, keep our customer happy. I think it should be fine.
Sam Walton launched Walmart at 44. He focused on rural areas that weren't served by big retailers. His view on prices stemmed from growing up in the Great Depression. 2 decades after launch, he was the richest person in America. Here Walton talks about the importance of learning from Walmart employees.
Oh, no, you didn't. I shook your hand right in there. I'm in the snack bar.
Most importantly, I like to get to the stores and thank folks for what they're doing and find out what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. I learn so much more in these stores, like these 2 here in Hot Springs, than I do sitting up in that office in Bentonville.